AI coming in is the biggest disruptor to learning and development in an organization. It pushes us to democratize learning. We don't have a choice anymore. We have to learn how to control an experience without control of the content. I think this is the biggest risk to learning content that AI brings to date, is that people see it and they're like, oh, this is good to go. Maybe it's an outline, maybe it's a process, but you have to read it and understand that the learner needs a human touch to it to be able to take it in and apply it. I think that how we built the trust and credibility in our content was that it was immediately relevant and actionable. We don't put people through training for the sake of learning. If you're going through training, it is directly tied to your job or your career plan.
Hello, and welcome, our dear listeners, to my podcast, Love People Technology Learning. And I'm your host, Tamara Kacharova, CEO of L&D. And today, I'm thrilled to have with us Jamie Dalferes, the Director of Enterprise Learning and Development at Syncora, with a master's degree in instructional technology and profound experience in e-learning and instructional design. Jamie has dedicated her career to creating impactful professional development programs that resonate across all organizational levels. Also, Jamie has been talking a lot the impact of AI on learning and development, and I'm really curious about this point and how it changed the role of learning and development in an organization, as well as the humans doing the role. Jamie, welcome to my show. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and all my guests in the start of my podcast, we are talking about the career path that you had, and maybe you will share with us your career journey. Like, maybe can you share some pivotal moments in your career that significantly influenced your approach to learning and development? Yes, please share.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in learning for 24 years.
Wow.
I know I say that a lot. And I started out as a school teacher, and immediately kind of what changed, something that came into my life that changed how I approached learning, was having to teach teachers how to use technology with their students back in 2008-ish, 2007. So they really wanted to move away from using like an overhead, if you remember those with the transparencies. So we wanted to move away from that, and we wanted to catch up with how students were using technology. And at the time, it was a lot of like video blogs. MySpace was a thing. So how do we use that in our classrooms? And that training teachers really opened my eyes to a different way to train people.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, and after that, you transferred to corporate learning, or like how it happened?
Yeah. So then I moved into corporate learning because I wanted to move to Florida. I wanted to live at the beach. So I took a job as an instructional designer for e-learning. And I built e-learning courses for Telecommunications Association. So I was transferring all of their content. They had these long, lengthy certification type classes that were all in person. And so my job was to reimagine these and how we could do a blended classroom, and they could do some of the learning on their own, which kept them on the job more. Otherwise, they were in Tampa for 7 days. That's a long time for a lineman to be off the job. So I created a blended approach to how for their certifications for telecommunications. But really my main reason for going from education to corporate is I wanted to live at the beach. So I got a job in Tampa.
It's a dream. It's a dream how we should transfer from, at work, because the same way, because I love the ocean and Atlantic Ocean, and right now I'm in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale because I love the ocean.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. It's a great transition.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
get it for sure. I mean, I don't know. There's worse places.
Yes, yes, Jamie. And like right now in your current role as the Director of Enterprise Learning and Development at Syncora, and I want to talk a little about your experience right now. Maybe like what are some of the key initiatives and projects you are most proud of, what you are doing with your team and you love to do it with your team?
Yeah, so at Syncora, we've really been working on becoming a global company. So rather than a US based company that happens to do work internationally, we want to be a global company inclusive of everyone that works for Syncora. So moving our learning strategy, our offerings to that appeals to a global audience, that has been really interesting for me and my team. I think that achieving that, getting the foundational pieces in place, building that momentum and that trust, so that we have the participation that we need. I think that's been something that's really been impactful to myself, my team, and Syncora.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest, like, it's, I'm really curious about what's the biggest challenge to build a global organization and especially in talent and development, because you mentioned like the talent and development function has to be diverse and yes, it's really hard. I know. Yes, maybe you can tell about this point.
Yeah, so a couple of things is our learning strategy is around action-based learning. So we create content that can be accessed in the flow of work that trains you on what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of things that get really interesting is the complexity of Syncora. We don't all do the same thing. And then the I would say the variety of the roles, they don't all have the same processes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's also not the same culture around leadership or accessing learning. So we really have to be cognizant of that, of the cultural differences when it comes to like time spent in training and what that
Mm-hmm.
training should look like or feel like. Those have been the biggest hurdles that we've overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm not sure, I think I've read in your LinkedIn profile about this, that you mentioned fostering a culture where learning is both a priority and a pleasure. I think it was in your LinkedIn. And how do you achieve this within like large organization and like organizations which you worked?
Yeah, sure. So how we got there, and we're still getting there. It's always moving, always evolving. But I think that how we built the trust and credibility in our content was that it was immediately relevant and actionable. So we don't put people through training for the sake of learning. If you're going through training, it is directly tied to your job or your career plan. So we don't want to waste your time that could be used doing your job in training that's not directly related to your job.
Mm-hmm.
By building that credibility and trust, people seek out learning from credible sources within our company um,
Mm-hmm.
to learn best practices, processes, workflows. We also have an internal network of like who to contact when, because
Mm.
so many people have great skills. Learning cannot possibly teach you everything. So we've
Mm-hmm.
created a really great network of contact me with this. And that has proven to be really successful.
Oh wow, it's so great. Like it looks like a like subject matter expert, but like a more like a community, right? Like learning community. How does it work? Like do you have like a special like e-learning portal for that, or like it's a special, I don't know, maybe some messengers they use or some like yes, how does it work like technically and yeah.
So we've started this year, this fiscal year. Our fiscal year just ended. So this one that just ended, we started it pretty informally using like Teams, our Viva Engage pages, those kind of things. But going through into 2025 and beyond, we want to bring in Skills Cloud, which is a Workday add-on. So we want to use Workday Skills Cloud that helps us identify who has these skills. And then it also is a great resource for our team members to tap into so that they can say, I'm looking for something around maybe SaaS training. Who has this? And then they can look that up and go there. So that's where we want to get to.
Wow, it's so great. And do your leaders support these initiatives in your company? Because if you want to develop some community internal in like inside on your organization, it means the leaders and like executives like have to support these initiatives. Like, do your company support it like some special things to do, like I don't know.
So some of them do, and a lot of this is experimenting. It's
Mm-hmm.
how's this going to work, and would people
Mm-hmm.
engage with it? And because of the experimenting that we've been allowed to do, we've kind of crowdsourced this change,
Mm-hmm.
where it's become a, well, don't you have this? I've seen it other places in our company. So
Mm-hmm.
building momentum and word of mouth and just good old fashioned crowdsource changing has
Yes.
really been helpful. And that's gotten a lot of leaders on board. Our company is also very complex. Um, and we have a lot of changes in like structure or leadership. This is helpful to them in their new roles. So it's also caught on there. Because of those two things, we get a lot of buy in.
Yes, yes, I got it. Thank you for sharing. And like, how do you collaborate with your team to innovate and implement some different kind of changes in your learning strategy? Maybe like implement effective learning solutions or something like that.
Yeah, so we all work remotely. We work all across the
Oh.
United States. So we do it through Zoom calls, well, Teams calls. We do it through Teams calls. And we like to have a meeting. I bring everybody together bi-weekly and we talk about like what's changing in our industry. What are we doing that's working? What do we need to do differently? Who has like some great ideas that we can start playing with and seeing if they'll fit? So I try and keep whenever we come together as a team, it's really collaborative. And I try and keep that space available for people to come up with all sorts of ideas. Um, some of them work, some of them don't, but we don't know unless we try. Sometimes we try small.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's just creating that space where everybody feels comfortable giving their ideas and they're not looking to me for every solution, that they have stake in this as well. And what do you want to try? How do you think we can move forward? Um, and it's really opened up their ideas, kind of opened up their imagination, because it's not a real common thing in a corporation, especially this size, for your leader to go, what do you think we should do? So it took a little while, but yeah, they're coming around.
It's great, like yes, and my team is the same, like across, like all over the world, and I think I've been work uh, remotely over 5 years. I think yes, like before pandemic came to our life. Yes, and it's really important to have like some mantras and routines together like a team, not just like like need to talk, need to have like some collaboration, some projects together, some initiatives, and always like not always but like of course one time per week for sure to be online and to talk about the work. And yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's really great. Yeah, how many countries your team is working? Like, is it just like in the United States, or like you mentioned that it's global? Your company is global, like, or all over the world?
I think we're up to 22 countries. I think it's around
But your
22
team,
countries. My
Yes,
team
but
works
you
in the
can.
United States. Yeah.
Yes, good. And of course, my question, next question is really, I think, important for you. And I know why, not just like for your team, but like because I think you love AI and everything what's like around AI.
Mhm.
What role does technology play in enhancing learning experience, and how do you integrate it effectively, like to your programs with your team? Yeah.
So, whenever AI started coming into our environment in a um, kind of a business tool way, um, I really had a moment of self reflection. Like, I had a couple of choices. I could either push it aside and keep doing business as usual. No one would be the wiser for a minute, like I had a little time, or I could prepare my team and we could start thinking about the skills that were needed, how it changed the impact of the human, and how it changes where and how you position learning in an organization. I chose that one. I kind of figured that this was coming and I might as well figure it out and get my team ready so that we were prepared. Um, thank God I did, because it's gotten here really quickly. And my team uses AI as a tool really well. So they've really adapted to, like, here's the human side of this process for development, for analysis, communication, and here's where I can use a tool. And the partnership creates a really great experience, learning experience for our team members, and we can service them in a shorter amount of time.
Mhm. And like you mentioned that you use Microsoft Teams. Do you use Microsoft Teams Copilot for your L&D initiatives, or like, yeah, do you use them?
So Copilot's not approved at our company yet. So we
Oh,
don't use
okay.
Copilot, but a lot of our development tools have an AI feature in them. Like we
Mm-hmm.
use Articulate 360 to build content. We're Synthesia users.
Yeah, for
It's AI driven.
AI, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot
Avatars.
of our tools are AI driven. And then Syncora also created our own internal chat GPT. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a chat GPT type tool that we use quite often.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's really so great. And how you mentioned, if you have a fear, you need to look at your, like, by your eyes to your fear eyes. Yes, and
Yeah.
it means we develop our skills like this way. What kind of skills do you think we need to develop, like a learning and development professionals, to be like, on the side with AI?
Mm-hmm. So what I'm finding out is you got to know how to prompt write. Prompt writing is technical skill number one. Um, yeah, you got to get really good at that and understand. It's not the same as searching. So you've got to understand how to prompt write. Then you have to understand how to take what you get out of an AI tool and humanize it. I think this is the biggest risk to learning content that AI brings to date, is that people see it and they're like, oh, this is good to go. Maybe it's an outline, maybe it's a process, training of some sort. But you have to read it and understand that the learner needs a human touch to it to be able to take it in and apply it. So we don't read or learn great from like user manuals. And currently your AI, that's kind of what they create, is they create
Mm-hmm.
user manual type information. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to understand how to use it, but then put a human touch on it. And then
Mm-hmm.
you also have to understand um, when the human is important to the learning process. So
Mm-hmm.
when do I need to put them in front of me? So you have to understand that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Jamie, you've been like discussing this significant impact of AI on learning and development. Like, can you explain how AI, like in your opinion, is currently transforming the learning and development landscape within organizations. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's been kind of interesting because when AI tools come out and I can put in a prompt, write me a training program for conflict resolutions for new managers. If you don't understand learning and development, what it spits out at you seems okay. So now I have a lot of conversations that I used to not have around, well, what do the people on your team do? Because I can just put in a prompt and it'll give it to me out of AI. So what do your people do? I've also had to kind of resell the positioning of learning and the impact of learning on the organization as far as a measurable impact to business goals, that it needs to have a COE approach in a company this size, that if we start developing all this training in our silos and vacuums without this centralized place, that you're going to negatively impact your team members' experience, and you can't measure it because you don't know where it's coming from. You don't
Yeah.
know what they're taking. So understanding measurement, impact, and positioning with AI in our environment, that has been the difference. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And you mentioned today a lot of like different kinds of tools for AI which you use with your team at your company. But like what kind of AI tools are not enough for you? Like maybe you need some AI tool, but like some like the vendors did not make it for the industry right now, but like you understand that's, oh my god, yes, if it would be this tool, like I will use it, but like right now we don't have it for learning and development.
I would say Copilot.
Okay, it's enough for you, right?
Yeah, I want to use Copilot because we create a lot of short, like learning assets. But what we have to do is we have to go find an SME. We have to sit down, get the information. And what would be really helpful is Copilot integrated into like our team. So I can just take your meeting notes and then I can take that and throw it over into PowerPoint and give it to a designer and then they could create what they need. I would really like Copilot before I start building
Mhm.
any other new
Yes,
AI
yeah,
tool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what's about, right now you mentioned all the tools for, like asynchronized learning or to prepare some content before, like, synchronized learning started or something where people communicate or collaborate. But what do you think about AI mentors, AI coaches, AI facilitators, or something when AI, it's like a professional, like maybe sometimes human, more human, like a psychologist or like someone, right? Like, yeah, what do you think about that when it's like peer-to-peer communication or like group and like a facilitator communication?
That's a really interesting. I was just talking about this the other day because we're looking at our coaching vendor, and our coaching vendor is still in person, and that means it costs an extraordinary amount of money. There are a
Absolutely.
couple of AI coach apps out there that we could use, which means we could get a broader scope of people. And we also have an AI coach. We use LinkedIn Learning. They have an AI coach.
Mhm.
And then our LXP platform, they're bringing on an AI coach as well. And kind of what I'm finding as I'm talking to people is the technology is there, and it's getting better, but people have not evolved to learn from AI yet. There is still a point where a person wants to talk to a person, that they want to learn from a person. I think Discover Credit Card has a whole marketing campaign that our call centers are people. And because people still want to talk to people. They want to have a conversation with people and learn from them. I don't think people have completely evolved to the point of I can gather everything I need from an AI robot. I don't think we've gotten there yet. I don't think it'll be long. I have a couple of kids that wouldn't mind at all just hanging out with an AI robot. So I don't think that we're too far behind. But for right now, I think that that's where the people live, is the teaching part, the facilitating, the coaching. I think it just feels more genuine to the human being on the receiving end.
Yeah, and maybe like we need a time, like with the like always I I mentioned the story about the car and horses. Like before car, we used horses, but like when we started to use the cars, we need to prepare everything, like road, like lights, like
Mm-hmm.
everything for that. New rules, new, like people needed to learn a lot about like everything science, like yeah, and we need the time, and like yes, but right now it's like always I love AI, and I'm from the company which created AI and AI role-playing games and everything with AI for learning and development. And like I love it, and I know that it's reality and the future. But when I talk to support in different kinds of shops, or like 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 I don't know, like some bills or banks or something, and AI answered for my questions. Sometimes I ask, can I talk to to real people, like to real person who can support me? Yeah, because like yes, I know that they need to. I need to give a time to these AI tools because they need to learn a lot. Like yes, it's not enough right now, yes, but like we believe in it, we know that it's a future.
Oh,
Yes,
we'll
it's
get there. We'll get there
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely, yeah.
Mm.
Yes, and like today you talked a little about that, like with AI automation, many aspects of learning, delivery, and analytics. Like, how do you see the human elements of L&D evolving, and how we can support it and like yes, help it?
Yeah, so I think the human elements will be in the measurement, the analysis, right now, the execution of it, so the implementation and the positioning. Keeping a experience cohesive with AI coming in as a tool. And I think that's where the humans come into play, is ensuring that the end user of your learning is part of an experience, that it doesn't become a scatter plot of learning that's just being kind of thrown at them, that it all still makes sense and it's aligned to their
Mm-hmm.
current job and the job they want to do. I think that's where the humans come in.
Mm-hmm. And the second questions, it's always near the about human line in AI. What are some of the challenges or ethical considerations associated with implementing AI in learning and development, and how can organizations address them? Because like these two questions are together always, like about human size of AI and about like all everything about ethical. And yes, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is centered around fear. It's fear that I'm going to inform a language model with my company content, fear that AI is going to come in and take all the jobs, fear that it's going to take over completely. So I think a lot of it is fear based. Learning and development, specifically, I would say the AI coming in is the biggest disruptor to learning and development in an organization, since organizations started having learning and development teams. It pushes us to democratize learning. Before, it was kind of a corporate buzzword, like, oh, we should democratize learning. Learning should be owned by all. And I just don't think a lot of learning teams adopted that out of fear, out of,
Mm-hmm.
again, out of fear. You don't have any power when it's not controlled by you, or your power changes. And I think that with AI coming into the L&D world, we don't have a choice anymore. We have to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to control an experience without control of the content.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get content anywhere, and AI is open to
Yes,
anyone.
absolutely. Yes, and we need to have critical thinking and
Mm-hmm.
analyze a lot because, like, AI can generate what we want, but like, is it true or no? Like, is it false? And it's something which I teach my kids. Like, if you've got some answers from AI, like, you need to check, you need to read, you need to rethinking. Like, yes, it's really important, and I think it's really crucial skill for learning and development industry too. Like, yes, it's I think so. Yes, always we need to think about that.
I think critical thinking skills are a must in the future of work. Um, Something else can create the content, but like you said, is it right? Is it reasonable? Is it going to teach anybody anything? And that's where the human can come in and take a look at it and think critically. Just use some common sense and see if it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, it's so it's so funny because I think last weekend, I have a book club with my friends, and every
Mhm.
month we read like different kind of books from all over the world. It could be like English literature, American literature, Russian, like everything, like all over the world. And we prepared some questions with the AI about the book. And it was so funny questions because like we knew the answer for it, but like when we checked it, and if you don't know the answer for these questions, you like it's not right. You need to check it twice or three times to prepare the correct questions, because
Mhm.
like the answer, it's the different. And yes, AI knows a lot about the books or something, but like we need to recheck it. It's like simple example, like just like in my world, like without professional line, like just like regular life. You
How
know what I mean?
interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's really interesting. And like it's so like it's so weird because when AI asked the question, AI give you the answer like, what kind of this book? Like, is it like a, I don't know, is it romance book, or like is it like a criminal books or something, like different kinds. And in
Mhm.
the next question, like we know correct answer, but in the next question when he asked another question, he used in a question the wrong meaning of the book. And like, oh my god, your previous question was about like, is it like a criminal literature or like it's, and right now you answer another way and use the wrong answer. It's like crazy, but like it's just we need to connect it, and like we need to
Mhm.
analyze it, and like, yeah, it's how does it work like every day.
That's really
Yes,
interesting. Yeah.
yes, it's really interesting. You can test sometimes, like a lot of tests help us, like, yeah, because in learning and
Mhm.
development, like if you use some like something for your community or something, like, yes, it will help you. And like, looking ahead, how do you envision the role of learning and development departments evolving as AI becomes more integrated into organizational
Yeah.
learning? What should professionals and organization do now to prepare for these changes?
Yeah. So I've thought a lot about this one because of the current state of my team in this in Syncora. It's a really relevant topic. Um, and how I staff my team now is more on technical skills and human skills. So I'm not really looking for like specific true instructional designers who know how to follow the ADDIE process all the way through. I'm not really looking for that anymore. We're kind of moving away from that specialty type role, moving more back to a generalist type role. Because of AI, we can create content really quickly. So, and I don't need like, for our purposes specifically, I don't need somebody that has expert level video production skills. I need them to be able to use the tools that we have really quickly. And I need them to be able to align training to business goals and to measure it. So I need data analysts. I need facilitators. I didn't think I'd ever hire true facilitators again, but I need facilitators to facilitate kind of the additional content that we have after you go through self-paced. And so it's really changed. Oh, and graphics designers. I hire graphics designers and experienced architects like no other. Like it's really what the predominantly what my team is graphics designers and experienced designers. Yeah. I need data analysts. I don't really need true instructional designers anymore. So I think that niche of, this is what I do. It's my specialty. You got to bring in new skills. You got to do something else.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. You need, how you mentioned before, you need to reskill yourself and like, yes, upskilling, and yeah, it's true. And
and coaches, as you're saying that, like coaches that run cohorts. So we do a lot of self-paced learning, and then we bring you together and talk about experimentation and application and, what have you tried? What's worked? I need people that can facilitate those conversations. So that's where my facilitators come in, and coaching. I think both of those are still human based, but yeah, it's changed how I hire people on my team significantly.
And you do a lot of like speaking about AI. What's your favorite question about AI in learning and development?
My favorite question, I get it a lot, is so how can I create my own training and not have to go through my learning and development team? They want to circumvent processes.
And what's the answer?
We established the need for the L&D team. The answer to that question is you still need your L&D team.
You still need, absolutely.
Yeah, because they have an expertise that you need to make that training relevant and actionable, and that people actually take it and do it, because we measure the do it part, not the learning part. And so the need for your L&D team is still there. And that's my favorite question is, if I have AI, why do I need my L&D team?
Yes, it's true. What kind of resources, like, I don't know, maybe websites, influences, are you reading or watching like every day to be on trend with AI in learning and development?
So, her name just left me. I follow this one lady on LinkedIn. What is her name? I just saw her at the LinkedIn Talent Summit. I've got to remember her name.
Maybe
it just left my brain.
Phil, no? I know several, of course. Like, okay.
Maybe Abby something. Okay, I'll have to send you her name, because she is amazing at really breaking it down into reality. Like, this is what you got to deal with right now. Like, don't worry about this stuff over here, it's far off. This is what you got to deal with. I follow her, and I'll get you her name. And then I also follow a newsletter. Why am I blanking today? I apologize.
It's okay. It's
You
okay.
know,
No
only the
worries.
most important part of like the
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, no, it's just like I'm curious about, like, is it book or like, yes, newsletters or like YouTube videos or something. Yeah. It's,
So I follow this one expert on LinkedIn and I really engage in kind of what she posts. And then there's this newsletter that is more about the technology side of it, like the advances that they're making in AI and what's available. I follow both of those. And then I use my team. They have a little bit more time on their hands than I do. So I'm like, what have y'all learned? And we have a learn one, teach one. And so every time we come together, we pick somebody and they got to teach us something that they've learned and like a tool or whatever. So I learn a lot from my team.
great, great. I love it. And I totally agree 100% that we can learn from each other, and it's like the biggest resource in our life. I love it. Yes. And in the end part of my podcast, always I ask personal questions about my guest, because all of you are really so unique, and I want to open like your personality for my listeners. And what hobbies or activities do you enjoy doing in your free time, and how do they help you recharge?
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot of paddleboarding when it's warmer
Ah,
outside.
yeah.
I like to paddleboard. I love to hike. I spend a lot of my time outside. It's much more comfortable to me than being inside. I read, but I read a lot of like entertainment type nonsense books. Um, yeah, I try not to, if I'm reading stuff for like intellectual like
Yeah.
improvement, I do it for work. But I like whenever I sit down to read, I read something that's just fun to read that I don't even have to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's my next question. Are there any books, movies, or TV shows that have inspired you, or left a lasting impression on your life?
Lasting impression on my life. I just finished Disclaimer with Kate Blanchett the other day.
Uh-huh.
I cannot get it out of my head. I don't know if you've seen it. It's amazing. But I really like it because the writing is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really smart, seamless writing. I also like Shrinking. I watch Shrinking
Mm-hmm.
on Apple TV. It is
Yeah.
hilarious. Um, it is so funny. Who would have thought that Jason Segel and Harrison
Yeah.
Ford would be doing a comedy together? No one ever. So I really like Shrinking too.
Yes. And like, sometimes I ask my guests about personal goal or project are you currently working on that brings you a sense of fulfillment outside of work? Do you have something in your life?
Yeah, sure. So my middle daughter, she's 20 years old, and she went to a year at university, and she decided over the summer, she was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't want to keep going to school if it's not going to end somewhere. I'm like, okay. So I had this idea. I was like, well, how about if we open a business together, and then you can run this business. I'll teach you how to run a business and learn all the ins and outs of entrepreneurship and see if that's what you want to do. So we are currently opening up a piercing lounge in Northwest Arkansas called A Little Wicked Piercing Lounge. So my daughter can see if she likes running a business.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
it's an amazing,
I
it's
think
so
it's so
great.
fun.
Yes, it's really so fun. And what's the favorite thing on this experience for you?
The favorite thing for me is working with Taylor, working with my daughter, and her learning skills like in the flow of work. Like you have to learn these things to open this business. And so it's not theoretical, like sitting in a classroom learning how to write a business plan. Like Taylor had to write a business plan and come up with a marketing campaign and a social media campaign and what does your brand look like? It's so fun to work with her in this capacity. I think that's my favorite part is just
Oh
working
my
with her and
God.
watching her learn new things.
I love it. And of course, good luck. Like, I know what does it mean like to be entrepreneur, and it's always like a roller coaster. Like, yes, but I'm so grateful for this experience in my life too. And I know if you have a great like idea and you know how to do that and you'll try, just like try, start to do something. It's
Yeah.
like it's about entrepreneurship. Just start, nothing more.
Yeah.
It has not to be perfect or like it has not to be like the best. Like yes, just start it. It's and you will get like the result like so fast. It's true. Yes, good luck with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. And I think that that's the biggest misconception in owning your own business is you have to have it all baked out. It has to be perfect.
mhm,
And you're just going to go step by step because you have all the steps there. And
absolutely.
you don't. You have to have the first step.
Yes, just yes, it's true. Just first step, yes. And it's why always I talk about when I talk about entrepreneurship, I'm talking about non-perfectionism because if you are
Hmm.
a perfectionist in your business like from the start, it means you've never started. Like yes, always you was not be ready. Like
Yep.
yes, like yes, it's true. Yeah, and you mentioned middle daughter. How many kids do you have?
I have three. I have
Oh,
three. Grace is 22, Taylor is 20, and then Ethan is 16.
oh my God, it's so good. I have three sons. Yes, I have three kids, and yes, I love it. And how do you like? Maybe right now, of course, the eldest. Like, how did you like, or do you like to spend time with your kiddos if you are together?
Well, I'm on their agenda now. So it's really how do they like to spend time with me? My time with Ethan usually revolves around soccer. Taylor is, she likes to do a lot of shopping. We're trying to open this business. And then Grace is she loves a good coffee shop hang. So, and a movie. Yeah. So it's really just how do they want to spend their time with me rather than me dictating what that looks like. I'm just kind of there for it if they want to give me some time.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing. And in the end of my podcast, I have three questions, the same for all the guests.
Okay.
First question: what was the last thing you asked ChatGPT?
Last thing I asked
ChatGPT,
ChatGPT.
Claude, Gemini, I don't know, like, yeah, you
I got
mentioned
you.
that
I got you.
Copilot. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I was helping my son write his NCSA recruiting profile for soccer. And
Okay.
I put in the bullet points and I asked ChatGPT to help me write a bio description for Ethan for his NCSA
Yeah.
profile.
Good. Okay. Tell your favorite quatrain or lyrics and explain why exactly you choose it and love it.
My favorite lyrics, like to a song.
It's like it could be like a quatrain from your book or like it lyrics or something. Yeah. Lyrics from the song. Yeah.
My favorite, man, I have a lot. I have a lot. I love music. So I have a lot. I would say, um, I say this to my kids all of the time. I don't think
Uh-huh.
they know it's a lyric to a song, but it's life life goes on after the thrill of living is gone.
Yeah.
And it's a John Mellencamp song,
Yeah.
Jack and Diane. And it's just, this is a marathon for most of us.
Yes,
And the thrill of
absolutely.
living is going to come and go, but life goes on. So
Yes.
just stay on the ride. It's going to be okay. All things pass.
Okay. And My last question, called Ask the Next Guest on my podcast. Here's how it goes. Every guest gets to throw a question and the next guest. I believe it adds a unique touch, allowing the previous guest to pose a question to the next one. Andrea Zimmerman was my wonderful guest and she passed on her question to you. Are you ready to answer?
Sure.
If you could go back in time and go to your 22 or 23-year-old self who's just starting their career, basically, what would be the one or two things that you would tell them that you have learned and wish you knew back then?
That's a good one. I gotta think about that. What would I change? What would I change? I don't know if I changed anything. It would change a lot of things, the butterfly effect. It would change a lot of things. But what would I change? I would... You know what I would change? I have 4 college degrees. I would not have 4 college degrees. There is no reason for me to have 4 college degrees. And I wasted a lot of time, frankly. And that's what I would change.
Okay. And right now it's your turn to ask my next guest about something which you want to ask.
Okay. I like the question, if you don't do this, if you're not doing what you do for a living, well, what do you do to make money? Like, what would you rather do to make money than what you're currently doing?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Jamie. And you know what? We did it. Like 1 hour we are together.
That was fun.
Yes. And thank you so much for this experience. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yes, and of course, Jamie, thank you for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with me and with our listeners today. It's been for me a really pleasure exploring the everything about AI and your learning and development initiatives. And to our listeners, be sure to connect with Jamie to stay updated on her latest initiatives and insights in the field of learning and development. And of course, join us next Tuesday for another enlightening conversation on Love People Technology Learning podcast. Until then, keep learning and stay curious. Bye.